Welcome to episode 8 of the Take Two podcast, where Kenny and I embrace one another literally in our love for film. It is a wonderful day today where we are going to be ranking Ben Stiller's best comedy movies. Yes, comedy specifically, but we'll touch on some of his other films as well. Why are we talking about Ben Stiller? Because he's sort of the man of the hour, I feel like. He's the new actor turned director darling of Hollywood. And all my normie friends are telling me how great of a director he is and how he's a genius now. And I'm like, I think he was already a genius. I don't think he just became a genius. And I think that genius came through comedy and through his family's line of work there, with his dad being a comedy actor and whatnot. So we'll save some of that. Anyways, I am Sam, if I didn't already mention that. Oh, I did. This is Kenny, co-host. We have 17 subscribers on YouTube currently. So watch out, world. We are growing faster than the speed of light. Please drop a like, sub, and comment to support the channel. And just a little bit of housekeeping from last week's episode. We're going to talk about Minecraft because Kenny went and saw Minecraft and said it was not going to win any awards. And we both thought it was going to tank at the box office. Oh, how wrong we were, Kenneth.
I don't think I thought it was going to. I don't think I thought it was going to tank.
I think definitely you said it was going to lose some money. And here we are. It made over $300 million worldwide on the first weekend, making it the most successful video game opening weekend movie of all time. What are your thoughts on this, and what does it mean for movies?
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately it's good for movies. If you look at the first quarter of this year, Hollywood's not been making money. They've been throwing a lot of money directly into the garbage disposal and blending it up. They needed a huge win here. I think that they got a significant win, and I also think they tapped into a demographic that's pretty hard for movies to reach. Like the Gen Z, Gen Alpha group just is not they're not typically moviegoers, but man, have you seen some of this footage, Sam?
I have not subjected myself to it, but I have continued to see people who say that the movie is like slop Gen Z garbage. And yes, I hate to be negative, but that's what I'm hearing.
So when I went and saw the movie, again, I didn't really have any background in Minecraft whatsoever. And so most of the things that turns out were major references were just things that went like right over my head. I didn't know it was significant that his name was Steve. I didn't understand that was a big deal about, like, the big thing that I'm seeing all over Twitter is the chicken jockey thing. Have you seen this? The little, like, zombie kid who rides a Minecraft chicken and he fights Jason Momoa in the movie. And there's a scene where that happens. And then, like, a lot of what Jack Black is doing in the movie is just saying these references, like, for the meme. And so, like, Jason Momoa is about to fight this zombie kid with a chicken on it, and then, Jack Black just goes, "Chicken jockey," and then a lot of the we'll post it to our channel. It's one of the craziest things ever. But like popcorn is thrown up in the air inside the theater. I saw one where like people brought literal chickens to the movie theater and like released them. It's absolute. My theater experience was, I'm pretty sure, the tamest in the entire country, and I saw it on opening night. But over Twitter, I've seen some shenanigans happening. Gen Z, Gen Alpha are coming out in force. They are loving this. People, when Wicked came out and there was the whole thing about people singing during Wicked, a very similar thing is happening here where people are just like quoting the entire movie when it's like, "My name is Steve," or like the chicken jockey thing, or I can't even think of the other ones. Like, they're so over my head and I'm just not in that world. But I think that this is great for them. Like, it's a bummer that the movie is slop and that it's garbage, and in this case the amount of money that it made is not directly coinciding or does not correlate to how good it is. But They needed a win. Like bakers can't be choosers right now. They tapped into an audience that typically does not go to the movies. They typically like to stream things, or they like to do the whole second screen experience, or YouTube is a lot more popular with them, and they tapped into something and it was successful. So I don't know. I'm not like pleased in the quality of the movie, but I'm pleased that they made money.
Well, yeah, good for them. I guess my reaction to what you're saying is two things. One, is this bad for Gen Z movies going forward, considering studios are going to do what's popular? Some of
Hmm.
that make money. Some of the things you were just describing, I couldn't even comprehend the scenes you were describing. Like, it sounds like it came out of a kid that ate 3 packs of Skittles and was then spun around 10 times and threw up everywhere, and that's the scene that came out. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, yes, great for the studio. Is that bad for the future, potentially, of things to come?
Yeah, I was listening to another podcast about this actually this week, and something
Do not
that was
plug them,
said.
Kenny. We do
I'm
not
not gonna, no, no,
plug.
no free ads. I'm not gonna say who it was, but something that they did say that was interesting was Gen Z and Gen Alpha never really got their thing. Like they were just fed the stuff from like the millennial and Gen X. Like they just grew up on the remakes of the stuff that was made in the 80s. They never got their thing. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
they didn't get a lot of this original content. And yes, Minecraft is IP, but there's never been a movie. Minecraft did come out specifically like when like median age Gen Zers were kids, was something that they played a lot. So does it bode well for the quality of those movies moving forward? Maybe not, but I also think that there's a reality of because we've remade so many pieces of IP, we've decided that it's not as lucrative to have an original idea like we did in the 80s and 90s, that we kind of like ruined that generation of moviegoer. Not like entirely, right? Because it's also Gen Z and it's also Gen Alpha who are like really into like the artistic films. It's why there's a growing and burgeoning community of people who like kind of the Oscar bait sort of stuff, is because these people are really interested in looking at really artsy things. So it's not like an indictment on their opinion of quality, but I do think in terms of large scale, this worked, right? So what else worked? It's also like maybe it's luck of the draw, right? Like the Emoji Movie was something that I felt like had a similar like merit of quality, like something that didn't have a story but like was there, and it tanked. Pixels tanked. Pixels is arguably still like a millennial thing because it's talking about old stand-up arcade games, but I don't know. Maybe it's luck, but I think that in terms of it's one of those things where Hollywood needs to get back to like the one for them, one for us sort of thing,
Mm.
where make a movie that makes a lot of money. Like this movie, it only cost not only, but it cost $150 million to make. It's already doubled its profit. It's kind of hard to tell. Like marketing is always a really fluffy number when they're talking about budgets in movies. You can assume that it's about half of the budget on top of it. So maybe like, 225 million dollars is like a rough estimate for how much the movie actually cost to make, and then they made 300 million in the first weekend. So it's profitable, and now they have 75 million dollars to maybe go make a more upscale indie movie or something that does have original IP. And I think that that's just where Hollywood needs to get back to. Is one for the artists, one for the crowds, and we're gonna just have to get through some of these in order for us to get really good stuff.
we have to spend money on bad stuff to get good stuff.
Yeah.
One follow up to that is I've heard a lot over the last, I'll call it a year, maybe somewhere in that time frame, of people saying, "Oh, well, this movie didn't do well because people don't go see movies anymore at the
Mm.
theater." And I get it. People are streaming. I think a huge part of that's true. I think ticket prices are out of control a lot of the time, and it doesn't feel just economically smart to go see something when you feel like you could wait 2 months and it's going to be on Netflix or something like that.
Yeah.
But for all those excuses that I've heard from those films that came up short for one reason or another, and then to go see Minecraft smash a $300 million weekend, it makes me look back on those movies and be like, hey, maybe the movie just wasn't blockbuster enough. Like, because people are clearly still going to see stuff if it's good. Like, I guarantee you, when The Odyssey by Chris Nolan comes out, it's gonna make a freaking $1 billion. Like, people are gonna be lined up. So that's just my only pushback to movies of the past year or so, is like, oh, people aren't going to see movies anymore, and that's why ticket prices are dropping. Maybe the movies just need to get better.
Yeah. I think there's a decent chance of that. I also think that, to your point, like we talked about CinemaCon last week, and during CinemaCon, a lot of a lot of movie studio executives and theater owners were getting together, and their relationship right now is quite contentious, right? Because you have Netflix, who, if they do release something in theaters, it's also same day on streaming, and you're talking about this like theater to streaming window, where Warner Brothers, for example, their window currently is like 17 days. So it's like, okay, does it actually make sense to, if I have a Max subscription, does it really make sense for me to pay $20 to go and watch this movie in a theater when I could watch that and a million other things for whatever, $16 a month, like in 2.5 weeks? I think that where I think people are going to get to is probably doing more of the Disney model, where I think Disney has, like, I want to say a 60-day in theaters policy. So every Disney movie will be in theaters for 2 months before it goes to Disney Plus. And I think that hopefully that's the standard that's taken. It is a catch-22 because, like you said, it's like, well, why would we keep a movie in theaters if it's not making any money or enough money? Let's put it on streaming where people might actually watch it. But then there's the other side of like, well, why would people go to the movie theaters if it's just going to be there right away? So it's a really tricky situation. It's very complex, but I think it boils down to, hey, look at how, even though it's crazy and it may not be everyone's cup of tea, like seeing Minecraft in theaters has been a communal experience.
Yeah, and that's cool. That's what people
Yeah.
want, right? The last time I truly remember something like that happening, and I'm not a diehard Marvel fan at all, but was Avengers Endgame Part 2. That was the last time I felt like there was such boom at the box office where you had to go see opening day, opening week, so you could be in that convo.
Yeah, if you wanted to have a conversation for that entire month of 2019, if you wanted to have a conversation with anybody, you had to have seen Endgame.
Right.
Like, you just had to.
And it was such a big deal. You couldn't be like, oh, don't spoil it for me. It's like, nah, you just got to go. If you didn't see it, that's on you. Like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, cool. Well, that was just our, deep talk on Hollywood cinema. Jack Black, Minecraft. Oh, and speaking of Jack Black, if you guys did not listen to last week's episode, it was a Grand Slam episode, but it didn't get our highest viewer count. And so I'm just going to say, if you're listening to this, but you didn't listen to last week's episode, then shame on you for hating Jack Black, and you need to go listen to that. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah. Sam, we know that our fan base has good tastes.
Yes.
A, because they listen to us, and B, because they watch a lot of these movies that have been really good that we've been watching together. And hey, if you're a fan of quality, go watch that episode.
Yeah. Thank you.
It was quality.
We just wanted to plug that. Okay. We're going to move on to our middle segment today called Recommended. And new segment I've been wanting to do for a while. Finally, I feel like this is the right week to do it. And here's the question is, what are you being recommended to watch right now by people, right?
Yes.
Always in passing, people are constantly recommending me stuff. And that's how life goes, right? And I am one of those people that actually takes recommendations to heart. If somebody recommends something to me and they're a friend, I will actually go and try and watch that thing. So I can have that conversation with them and we can have that connection over this thing. I'll tell you, bad friends, you go recommend them something, like, yeah, I might check it out, and they never watch it, but you always watch what they watch. That is an imbalanced relationship.
Not healthy.
That's not healthy. That's right. And on top of that, not only what are you being recommended, but what are you watching as well outside of what we're talking about on the podcast? Kenny, why don't you start with the first one? What is being recommended to you?
Something that has been getting recommended to me a ton, and something that I actually recently just started watching, I think I finished the first episode, is The Studio. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have, and this was on my list. So go ahead and give your little pitch, and then I can talk about it as well.
So Sam's favorite comedic actor of all time, Seth Rogen, plays a battered movie studio executive who finally gets promoted to the big job. He's finally going to make movies. He has a passion. He has a dream to make $1 billion movie that is also Oscar worthy. He loves big films. He loves art, like auteur directors, and he gets put in this position, but the actual money bags behind the studio want him to make a Kool-Aid movie, a movie based off of the IP of the Kool-Aid Man,
aka Minecraft.
And yeah, it's very timely that it's coming out now for like, okay, how do you make an IP for something like that? Same with the Emoji Movie, same with Pixels. Like, what are we doing? It's not a story. There's no backing there. And he's going around, and Martin Scorsese actually plays like a semi-critical role, at least in the first episode that I see, where Seth Rogen is trying to get Martin Scorsese to direct this movie and is kind of going down the route of Jonestown. Have you heard of this? I don't even know if it's real, if I'm being honest.
It is real.
It is real?
Yeah.
Okay. The idea of like drinking the Kool-Aid, Martin Scorsese wants to make a movie about that. And the story is just how does Seth Rogen try to spin that? It's a lot about like the inner workings of Hollywood. It's very much, I think it's something that is very much up our alley as people who like try to, like, we're not trying to be in the thick of it because that is just a toxic environment, but we try to do what we can to keep our fingers on the pulse of what's happening in news in Hollywood. And, you know, under like seeing a show that talks about how the sausage gets made is very interesting, and to kind of see it from people who've lived it is also really interesting. So I'm only one episode in. There's a lot that I don't know about the show right now, but very good. And I, even off of the first episode, I think I'd recommend it. It's good.
Yes. So this was being recommended to me, and it's released 4 episodes. I've seen the first 3. They're all incredible. It is the best. We're only 3 episodes in. 4 episodes, but I've only seen 3. Already better than Severance. Sorry, Ben Stiller. It is that good. It is that entertaining. It is that well shot. It is that engaging. Yeah. One of my favorite shows ever is Entourage from HBO. Okay? Not great acting in the show, but the entertainment value of that show is a 10. And Lauren, my wife, and I have watched through it twice, and the episodes are 24 minutes, and you're locked in the entire time because they're so good. And the reason I bring up Entourage is because I haven't seen a show that goes behind the scenes of Hollywood that has done anything well with that since Entourage. And this is the first thing, except it has been totally Apple-fied, where it's high-end, it's like very auteur, but it's still hilarious, fast-paced. It's the opposite of Severance. Honestly, like, everyone was like, oh, Severance might be the show that saves Apple TV. I think this might be the show that actually catapults Apple TV because it's so darn good. I haven't seen a show in a while where Lauren was like, do you want to watch the next episode? Do you want to watch? Like, I haven't seen her want to binge something. Like, we were trudging through Severance. Like, okay, it's good, but it's long and slow and brooding, where this was almost every episode is done in like 2 to 3 takes. And,
Yeah.
some of the scenes are done 16 times until they hit it right. So, anyways, the studio definitely recommend. And that is coming from somebody. I've had a real disdain for Seth Rogen for the last 10 years. I hate that he built his career off being hilarious in a million Judd Apatow movies. And then once comedy got canceled in Hollywood, he came out and said he regrets all of those roles he played and all of the jokes that made him famous. And he apologized and he went on to make a few woke movies. And I was like, dude, this is embarrassing. Well, you know what? I was nervous to watch this because of how woke he'd been. He's not woke in the show. He plays a more upstanding version of Seth Rogen, but he's still very Seth Rogen in the show. A ton of the people in the show that are either part of the main cast or that come in as cameos for episodes, he's worked with in the past. You've seen them in movies he's been with. It's delightful. And if someone like me with all that disdain for an actor can get over that, then it's worth checking out. Is there
Seth
anything
Rogen,
else?
come on the pod.
Yeah, get wrecked. Is there anything else you're being recommended?
That's been like the big one.
Okay.
A lot of people, I mean, again, people like know that we do movie podcasts, and it's like, oh my gosh, you do a movie podcast? You should totally watch The Studio.
Yeah,
So,
it's right up our alley, like you said. I'm gonna shout out a few others, okay? And I'll be really quick about it. 1923, a Yellowstone prequel. I've been hearing this from multiple people. It's like so Yellowstone was a big show, obviously. I didn't really get into Yellowstone. I watched 6 or 7 episodes, and I thought it was kind of corny and over the top. And I'm sure a bunch of boomers are going to hate me for that, but whatever. They made 3 sequels that are all back like 100 years, showing that lead up to the plot of Yellowstone, apparently. And I guess 1923 just ended, and there's a lot of buzz about it. But I've had multiple people like, you got to watch 1923. I'm like, okay. When I'm old, bored, and dead, I will watch 1923. But that is being recommended to me. The other thing, a good friend of mine just recommended, and I hadn't heard this one, so I wanted to mention it as a dark horse, and I haven't seen it. It's called Presumed Innocent. And I believe he said it was on Apple TV or Amazon Prime. And it has Jake Gyllenhaal, one of my favorite actors, in it. And it's a series. And my friend told me it's like one of the most thrilling series he's watched in a long time. And it's like, I think it's kind of like mystery thriller, maybe detective-esque. And he said it's like they're 4 to 5 episodes in, and it's amazing. So dark horse out there, Presumed Innocent. I'm hoping to check that out soon. And the very last one is this show called Invincible, which is on Amazon Prime. The 3rd season just finished. I had a giant nerd recommend this show to me, and I was like, all right, bro, it looks like an animated version of The Boys, but I'll check it out. So it was basically, no, it kind of was in that they use these alternative superheroes while still making nods to all these famous superheroes. But I was shocked. It's an animated show, and I was absolutely very pleasantly surprised at how good it was. I'm only 1 season in. Things I could take or leave is they race swapped like 3 characters in the first episode from the comics, and I'm kind of like, I don't know if we need that. But it is what it is. It doesn't really affect the plot too much, so they don't like harp on it a ton, except for one character is like super annoying. If you watch the show, you'll know who it is. And the finale was a little, it felt a little messy and unfinished. And I was a little let down by the finale. It was going so strong. And then it just kind of breaks off halfway through. And I think they're like, ooh, we're going to set this storyline. We're going to put it on pause and it's going to come back in the future. So,
yeah.
Anyways, I know a lot of people out there don't watch animated shows. Or animes, and they're so against it. I would say this one is worth a shot if you like superhero movies. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. It's really, really good. It's really well made. It's made by the person who also wrote the comic. He plays a critical creative role if he's not actually the showrunner. I can't remember. Very good show. I've watched the first two seasons. I haven't started the third season yet. Definitely worth a watch. Something that actually did come to mind while you were talking is a lot of people have recommended to me The Pit. Have you heard of The Pit?
I have heard the name.
Yes. So it is a story. It's a show about the ER room at a general hospital. I have one of my best friends. He actually is a nurse who works in the ER,
He's a
sees a
male
bunch of
nurse.
yeah, very timely, I know. But uh he talks about this show and he's like, yeah, sometimes this is my day. And
Wow.
so, he a lot of the medical dramas can be pretty corny, like a Grey's Anatomy, still fun, but like clearly not real. But if you're looking for something gritty and high octane, I haven't started watching it yet because I have heard it's pretty intense and I just not sure if I have the mental fortitude at this stage right now to do that,
No,
but
you do not. You guys should have seen Kenny trying to adjust his lighting before the episode. His mental fortitude was
flustered.
smashed.
Yeah, I have been mental midgeted by my work week. So,
Kenny
um,
said midget, not me.
yep, there it is. What are we, 20 minutes in? We're getting better each time in terms of not getting canceled.
Anyways, so that I think is a great transition into we want to rank Ben Stiller's top 5 comedy movies. Before we launch in, maybe we can give our thoughts on Ben Stiller. I freaking love Ben Stiller. Grew up with Ben Stiller. I think he's so freaking funny. I think he has some movies that just have some misses, maybe some creative misses out there, but he also has just struck gold so many times. And I think one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, that annoys me a little bit is Ben Stiller is getting so much attention right now as the director for Severance. And two things about that. One, props to him. I think that's awesome. He's also directed comedies in the past.
Hmm.
And some of his biggest comedies. And I think his genius can be seen in so many of these movies that are timeless. Honestly, so many of his comedies are timeless, which is so hard to do. And he comes from a comedic family. Like his dad, Jerry Stiller's in some of his movies, like Zoolander. Jerry Stiller is obviously George Costanza's dad in Seinfeld. He's so funny. Like every scene he's in, he just crushes. So, anyways, I love Ben Stiller. I miss Ben Stiller in comedies since the death of comedies. Maybe again, like since This Is the End came out, and they were kind of like, this is the end of our comedy group, end of comedies in general, because everyone's offended by everything nowadays and nobody wants to get canceled. So I would like to see Ben Stiller perhaps after Severance. Can he take a step back towards comedy filmmaking? It doesn't even have to be acting. I know he's getting to an age where he's probably past that in a lot of ways and he just wants to direct and get to that side of his life. But anyways, love Ben Stiller as an actor, as a director, and that's why we're talking about him today. Man of the hour, we
Yeah,
can say.
yeah. I did not grow up with Ben Stiller at all. I think that maybe my first, except for Night at the Museum, I didn't really see any of his things until I saw Tropic Thunder sometime in high school. So I didn't really grow up with him. I don't think I have the nostalgia around him that you may have and a lot of the people that I know may have. Uh, a pretty incredible comedic talent, both in front of and behind the camera. I actually think that his best work is when he is both acting and directing in something. I think that that is when he really, really cooks, and you can tell that a lot of people work together. I have to admit, after watching all these movies, I wasn't sure if we were ranking Ben Stiller movies or if we were ranking Owen Wilson movies, because
Yes.
literally, hold on, I'm looking at my list right now. I have 6 movies on my list, and only one of them does not have Owen Wilson in it. So, and Owen Wilson is also great in all of them. They're good friends. I think they've been in like 7 total projects together, and yeah.
I'll say this: that there were a couple comedic groups that were amazing. So this was the group that came before, Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jonah Hill, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, Michael Cera, that whole group, which was so hilarious and crushed so many movies. Before that was Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, freaking Talladega Nights guy, Will Ferrell, right? All these
Yeah.
guys were in all of each other's movies, and that is such a golden era of comedy. And it was so cool to see that torch. It felt like passed along to the next group, and then there's just been nothing after it. So it's kind of a bummer. I think I'm gonna have to start the revolution and just start making my own movies and bring comedy back from the dead.
Yeah, you and some Gen Z TikTok star. You can do it.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
And we'll go ahead and make the clarification here, like we did last week. This is best Ben Stiller performances. So there are movies that Ben Stiller has been in that are very good, specifically comedy performances. So I think a good example of like a movie that's not on either of our lists just because it didn't qualify as a comedy is Secret Life of Walter Mitty, a movie that I love, a movie that's really dear to me, my heart, and is something that I really do love of Ben Stiller, something that's really, really earnest, that he's done later in his career, some of the more earnest work he's done. That movie is great, but that is an example of a great movie that does not actually qualify for this list.
Yeah. And then, yeah, amazing movie, obviously. That goes without saying. And then some roles that he was maybe more minor in, like obviously he had 2 lines in The Cable Guy. Even though I think he directed that movie.
Yes,
and
he did.
He is so funny in Happy Gilmore, but he's such a side character. And like you mentioned that he's in Happy Gilmore, and 90% of the people are gonna be like, "What? He was in Happy Gilmore?" And you're like, "Yes, he was the caretaker. He's so funny." But it's a smaller role, so
yeah. Same with like Anchorman, stuff like that. Like he shows up in a ton of movies that are hilarious in their own right, but not that he's bad in them, but he just
makes
is
him
not.
better.
Yeah, he we're not counting cameo roles here. This is specifically what we think are that.
Perfect. Do you want to start with your number 5 Ben Stiller film? Comedy film.
Yes. I want to say that Ben Stiller is great. I think that this movie is complete dog crap.
Whoa!
And that movie is Meet the Parents.
Wow! Oh my!
Ben Stiller is very, very funny in this. He and Robert De Niro have really, really funny comedic like timing and chemistry in this movie. This movie will make you cringe into a raisin. You'll just be like huddled up in a blanket wanting to just like turn off the TV because of how painfully cringe this movie is. The main reason why this movie doesn't work for me, and bear with me here because I have some notes.
Oh, I'm ready. You are
this movie.
Kenny, you are about to tear apart a movie that really redefined a rom-com era and made $330 million off the $55 million budget. It was one of the highest grossing comedies ever when it came out. Yeah. But please, Kenny, please explain to the world why this movie is not funny and why it shouldn't have been successful.
I'm not saying the movie's not funny. The movie just doesn't work. This movie infuriates me. Pam and her entire family screw Greg over literally from the moment he shows up at their house. Her brother frames him for taking pot. Her dad puts him through a freaking polygraph machine and investigates his entire life story. And her sister's fiance makes fun of him for being a male nurse. And that doesn't even begin with, like, I haven't even started on Pam yet. Pam is by far the worst girlfriend in just the entire history of film. I've never seen a worse girlfriend than Pam. After 10 months of dating, she never took the time to prep Greg for her family at all, including talking about how very intense her dad is. She doesn't tell Greg that she didn't tell Greg that her dad doesn't know that they're living together. She somehow forgets to mention that she was previously engaged. We haven't even gotten to her parents' house yet. By the time they get to the parents' house, she gets so excited to see her parents that she almost forgets to introduce Craig, and then she ships him off, literally sends him into the into the foxhole by sending him, within 30 minutes of meeting her dad, sending him to the grocery store with him after an incredibly awkward interaction. She gaslights Greg by telling him that he is doing great with her father when it's very obvious, the movie makes it very obvious that it is not going well. She forgets to tell Greg that Kevin is the best man and that Kevin was her ex-fiance. Crazy. She then tries to gaslight Greg again by saying she has no feelings for Kevin, which she clearly does. Like the whole thing with the wood like
arch
gazebo thing, she was just wanting to tear his clothes off right then and there. You could just see it. It was awkward and like terrible. She then offers up Greg to go find Jinx after so many other things have already gone wrong, knowing that Greg hates cats. And then she immediately assumes, at the very end of the movie, she immediately assumes that Greg has lied to her about literally everything, including passing the MCAT, because he painted the cat's tail black. And then, not only does she like shove Greg away and then call him later, be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." She then like makes it like she turns into a victim mindset and tries to blame her father by not giving Greg more of a chance. It's a disaster. The Burns family is such a mess that it is actually beyond the realm of just comprehension that Greg would even want to marry Pam and join their family. It's one of those things where I was literally rooting at the end of the movie when there's that final interrogation between De Niro and Stiller, that Stiller would be like, "Actually, no, I don't want to marry your daughter and I don't want to join your family. This has been a terrible experience and I'm going to walk away from it." If that would have happened, this movie would have been incredible. But instead he's like, "Oh no, like you guys are like crazy and insane and actually you talk about a circle of trust, but you actually don't have any trust for each other whatsoever." Yeah, but but your daughter's still hot, so I'm still gonna marry her. It's just the whole thing does not work. It's a bad movie. Ben Stiller is funny in it. He is great in it. There are other good roles, but this movie, bad. 3 out of 10.
Okay. Are you finished? Are you done? Oh, I didn't know we were doing that segment.
Yeah, I'm done. Cancel Pam. Make the shirt.
Let me try and respond to everything you just said. This is my number 4 movie for Ben Stiller's favorite movies. I agree what you said about Pam. She is not hot enough to be this crazy. Okay, so I agree with that.
Dude, no one is hot enough to be like the way that she acts. She's
that's not true.
Manipulative.
That's not
She's
true.
Terrible.
That's not true. Anyways, here's what I'm gonna say, Kenny, and I say this with all due love. Everything you just described that you don't like about the movie is what makes the movie funny. That is, like, I feel like you need to take a chill pill when you're embracing this. This rom-com is like, yes, it was her family, I agree, is terrible. But Greg at the same time, I think there's a message, like, you make Greg seem innocent. Greg does lie constantly, and he lies.
Yeah, this is true.
And he lies to try and fit in. And I think that's part of the message of the movie. And maybe, like you said, at the end of the movie, maybe it's not time for them to get married, but maybe they need to learn to communicate better, right? If he is lying constantly to try and please her and her family, that's a problem. If she's not telling him about her past or things that happen in her life, that's a problem. But it's these miscommunications with these characters that makes the movie so funny. We need these things to happen. And you do just feel for Greg the entire time. Like, you're constantly just like facepalm. I mean, I was at least facepalm laughing because every time Greg feels like he's back in the circle of trust, he takes something triggers him, or he does something wrong, and it just completely removes him again. Like this, obviously, he's trying to calm down. He's gonna have a cigarette. Oh shoot, Jinx gets out. Oh, he lit the house on fire. Like, or I think the best example is, hey Greg, let's play beach or pool volleyball. Like, it's such a great scene, and he's finally getting in. Like, and they're like, Greg, like, what are you? You're part of the game. He's like, and he's messing up, and they're all dogging on him. And they're like, he's like, okay, like everyone's really competitive in this family. I can be competitive. I'm gonna be competitive. Serve me the ball. And he goes up, smashes the ball. You're so happy for him. hits the bride right in the face, breaks her nose, and all of a sudden he's the biggest villain on earth again. And it's just, I think that's the beauty of the movie is like, you're rooting for Greg. You feel bad for him. It is awkward trying to fit in. And he has a habit of little white lies trying to fit in because their family's so intense. But then it's always, he's so awkward that like a line he crosses all the time makes it weird. Like when he's talking at the dinner scene and they're like, he's like, oh, I grew up on a farm. And he's like, oh yeah. Like, and he's like, yeah, you can milk anything actually. And he's obviously not an expert and he's talking about this. And Robert De Niro plays that role so well where he's been such a serious actor his whole life that to see him be serious in a comedy film works so well because it just puts Ben Stiller on his heels and on his toes. And anyways, I personally go ahead.
That scene truly was funny, especially when De Niro just goes, well, I have nipples, Greg. You want to milk me?
Right.
It's just like roll on the floor, hilarious. And I should have specified that Greg is absolutely not blameless. He's also kind of a hard guy to root for because he does always lie. And so I hear that, but it's still like, hey, the movie like stumbles at the finish line because there's not a good reason why they should have gotten married for a lot of reasons.
That's a good point, but it is a rom-com. I think it comes full circle at the end. I like that we get the lie detector test at the end. That comes full circle from the beginning. And it full circles where he's not using a machine to do it. They're touching one another, hands to hands. And then Ben Stiller even does it back to him. And you have this give and take between the characters and they become on an equal line by the end. And so I like that. And I think you're like, oh, I don't like the male nurse thing. I like that toxic masculinity type of stuff. I think that's something that's missing. And I think like if you're a male nurse out there and you're listening to this, and you're like, I don't like they making fun of me. Like, you know what? If you're going into that profession, have a sense of humor. It's okay, right? I was a teacher. People would make teacher jokes all the time. It's like, yeah, I went into that profession. I could be, there's two things you can be in life. You can roll with the jokes or you can be offended. And to me, I'm like, we've gotten to an era where everyone's so sensitive that it's hard to even say anything funny anymore because you're so worried about what people are going to say. Like that's a funny toxic masculinity joke.
Yeah.
And so
it plays very, very well.
Yeah.
It's, again,
and you know why it plays well? And you know why it plays well too? Is because like you said, her whole family are a bunch of psychopath douchebags. And so when someone makes a toxic masculinity joke and other people around are backing that joke up and putting this individual into a corner, it's funny because the person is now emasculated and they have to figure out a way to get back into the good graces. And, that's Darwinism, I guess. I don't know.
Brutal survival of the fittest.
All I'm saying is, you could be in California and everyone's super woke and you could be made fun of for having like the traditional values, right? And now you got to figure out a way into the clique and how to survive like in the social environment where you might move to Texas or Florida and it might be the complete opposite. You know what I mean? So anyways, that's long story short. I'm glad we had a good conversation on Meet the Parents. If you haven't seen Meet the Parents, I think it's worth watching. It was a freaking box office smash. Obviously, Kenny didn't like it. That was my fourth favorite. So that means I guess I can talk about my fifth favorite.
Yeah, go talk about your fifth.
I don't know if you got around to watching this, but the movie Heavyweights by Ben Stiller.
I didn't get around to it.
Okay, so this movie is so funny. It is a cult classic and a Disney movie. It actually has a few Disney stars from back in the day. So a few characters from the Mighty Ducks are in this movie. And yes. I love the Mighty Ducks. And the plot of the movie is this, again, something that would never get made today, but was so good back then. Here's the plot of the movie. There's a fat kid. He's not even that fat. And his parents send him to a fat camp. And he's really offended. And he's like, and they're like, no, it's a great time. You're going to have fun. Because he has a tough time making friends and he stays indoors. They're like, it'll be good for you. And they're like, we just want you to not be a loser, whatever. And the kid's really offended, but he's like, okay, I'm going to fat camp. And that's literally what it is, the fat camp. And he's very offended by it. He gets there. There's a bunch of other fat kids there. And they all become friends, and they're like, hey, don't worry, we're all fat. And they're like, hey, it's okay to be fat. And it's pretty funny. They actually like into their bunks, they like sneak candy in, and they never lose weight. And actually a lot of the stuff around the camp that's been there for years is like more like body positivity stuff, where it's like, oh, we have the blob, and somebody jumps on it and launches the other kid super far in the air, and you can only do this if you're super fat. Great. Here's where the movie gets interesting is Ben Stiller comes in, and he is Tony Perkis. Okay. And he's essentially a psychopath fitness guy. Okay. Imagine like an 80s movie instructor, or like 90s fitness instructor on the TV. He comes in.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. And this character is literally his character from Dodgeball. So anyone who's seen both of these movies will know, oh my gosh, they're the same character. But Heavyweights is a really small cult classic film. Totally worth watching. Totally holds up. It's on Disney Plus. You need to go watch it if you haven't seen it, because it's just more White Goodman in his early stages. It's like a origin story. Same exact thing where White Goodman from Dodgeball, his dad like funds his gym and stuff like that. Same thing here. His dad, who he actually plays in the movie later on in the film. So Ben Stiller plays two roles, but only one scene as his own dad. He buys this camp. So what happens is he buys this fat camp out, and Ben Stiller as Tony Perkis comes in. He's going to run the camp, and this is going to be his show, and he's going to make the camp successful and everything. And basically it turns into a war between this guy who's a psychopath and actually wants them to lose weight against all these kids who have been going to this fat camp. That's been more of like a community coming together and not actually losing weight. And it's like this guy who's just like a Nazi, and he like brings in like, like a Swedish, like, fitness crew, like replaces and fires all the employees. And he plays the funniest psychopath you'll ever see. So, oh, the movie's so funny. It has such a great ending, such a great climax where they have to, face off against like the rich athletic kids across the lake in a like competition, and they do it every year. They always get killed, but anyways, it's so amazing. It's so funny. If you like Dodgeball, if you like anything, this movie's from 1995, but like it's a can't miss. It's a cult classic. If you haven't seen this, you're not a real Ben Stiller fan, and you also can't like anything he's seen or directed until you've seen this, because really, you're just a hack. Oh, okay.
And that concludes this podcast, however, because apparently I'm not qualified to talk about Ben Stiller.
That wasn't even directed at you. I was thinking of other people.
No, I'm interested because I do like Dodgeball quite a bit, and I do think that is one of his best characters. And so, yeah, I think I'll have to hop on Disney Plus and take a look at that.
I'm going to go rewatch it tonight. I don't even care.
Sounds awesome.
Okay, so that was my number 5. My number 4 is Meet the Parents. What is your number 4?
My number 4 is Zoolander, 2001 Zoolander. So this is the first time I'd watched this movie. So as a summary, like after his model of the year streak ends, Derek Zoolander, who Ben Stiller plays, asks himself if there's more to life than, quote, being really, really, really good looking. And he finds himself in the midst of this scheme to assassinate the Malaysian prime minister who had increased the minimum wage of garment workers or garment creators. So it's such a goofy movie. This movie is there is this whole genre in and of itself of early 2000s, late 90s comedy movies where it's like it's where like the height of the spoof was. And yeah, people like Ben Stiller and Will Ferrell and Owen Wilson were just in a ton of these movies. And this one is like the quintessential one of those. All 3 are in this movie. All 3 are great. It is such a quotable movie, like the classic, what is this, a center for ants? It has to be at least 3 times bigger than this. It's so funny. And he just does a good job. And this is something that is a quintessential Ben Stiller motif in all of his kind of campy movies, is just his really, really dumb charm. Like he has a way of just being, it's the same in Dodgeball. It sounds like it's the same in Heavyweights. Zoolander is peak this, where he's just a total idiot, and you just want to root for him the whole time because it's almost like watching a puppy, right? You're just like, oh my gosh, you're so dumb, and it's just like like he endears himself to the audience by playing someone who's just a total like airhead.
Um, well said. I love Zoolander. This is my number 3 movie. I'm going to comment on a bunch of stuff you said. Firstly, how you just described how Ben Stiller acts and how it's charming. I think that is the difference between someone like Ben Stiller and Jack Black, where Jack Black often comes off as very cringe. Ben Stiller makes it work, and you just love him, and you can't look away from him. Everything he does, he just nails so well. And like you said, even these like anyone who can nail like corny characters or dumb humor and actually make it funny, that's the hardest thing to do, right? It's very easy to make a show like Veep. Like, I don't really like Veep, and you can swear 50 times an episode and just talk off the cuff and just kind of throw lazy insults around. Or you can like really take a risk. And I think he takes a risk with a lot of his characters. Like, if you wrote this movie down, you're like, no one's going to be able to act this out. Like, who's going to be able to sell this character to where this isn't the dumbest thing you've ever seen, right? And he nails it. And going off that, Zoolander, like you mentioned, late 90s, early 2000s, Dumb and Dumber, Napoleon Dynamite. These movies that some people who think, like, these are people who think they are high IQ will watch these movies and say, that movie's too dumb for me. No, you are too dumb for the movie. Like, you are sitting on your ebony throne or whatever, or ivory tower, and you are looking down on these movies because you think the humor is too dumb. It's so, like, those 3 films I just mentioned, right? Napoleon Dynamite, Dumb and Dumber, Zoolander, they're so smartly written, and if they weren't acted well, it wouldn't come through. But anyways, you're right. He nails this. Vince Vaughn even has a cameo. Jon Voight has a cameo. David Bowie has a cameo. There's a million cameos in this movie.
Lenny Kravitz
has a cameo. Yeah. It's so funny. I quote this movie all the time. It's so quotable. It's timeless. There are so many just hilarious scenes, like, you know, the male model is going to get smoothies, and then they have a gasoline fight, and the car blows up, and they all die, and then they're having the funeral. Everything, every scene compounds onto the previous scene in this movie, and the movie just continues to get funnier and funnier. It's a shame they came out with, after, 20 years, Zoolander 2. I had to turn it off after 15 minutes because it was so bad. And I think that really shows when these dumb humored movies don't hit with writing and acting, that they can be just as terrible. But Zoolander is an all-time great. If you haven't seen it, or if you don't appreciate it, again, go fix your life and go watch Zoolander. It's so funny.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say that sometimes I wonder if that sort of comedy is more just like of an era where it just does not play the same now, which is interesting because like this movie will still play super well in 2025 just as well as it did in 2001. But I think that because there's an understanding of like when it was being made and just like the style that a lot of those movies are in, I feel like there's that. But Ben Stiller, regardless if it's 2020 or 2001 or 2025, he's just the king of winking at the camera. I think that's what we just keep on going back to. Is like he is so campy, and he does this thing where he talks like this, and and he just like has his face, and even, oh man, like I'm thinking about and you mentioned this too about like people who think they're too smart for this movie. But there's the whole scene where you have the 2001 Space Odyssey like intro music playing over while Derek and Hansel are trying to like log into Maury's computer because they don't understand the concept of like digital files. like all they know is that there are files in the computer that would would be able to frame the main like the main villain, and they just like start going at it, and he literally finds a bone somewhere in Maury's office to smash it just like the ape does in 2001: A Space Odyssey. And it's just like it's clever, it's funny. You have to have
It's
at
making fun
least
of
like
itself, right? Like it
yeah,
knows, it knows, it knows, it knows, and that's why it's so good. And if like you're not picking up
yeah,
on those references, like you have a problem.
yeah. Yeah, the point is that it knows. It's not even like a subtle reference. Like everyone
Right.
knows that song.
Exactly. Exactly.
Most people like that's the whole point is like, hey, for those like for they're literally just kind of like giving the middle finger to the really artsy people. Like you wanted like some dumb little reference, here it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's great at that.
A modern film I can think of that was a parody. It's still pretty old now, 10 years probably, maybe more, was, and you get them now and again, but, and this one's not in that tier of List I movies I listed, but a movie like MacGruber is still funny. It's a little bit
Mhm.
more crass, but you still get parodies. I think you're right. We haven't seen great parodies coming out or people who have been able to nail them super well. But
Yeah.
okay, great call there. That was my number 3, and that was your number 4.
Yes.
So what is your number 3, Kenny Powers?
My number
Oh, and
3.
Zoolander was directed by Ben Stiller.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah. So
just
that's the
wanted to throw
first one
that
that we
out there. So
yeah.
if you're like, oh, he's a genius, okay, go watch Zoolander. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Kenny's number 3.
My number 3 is Night at the Museum. 2006's Night at the Museum. This was potentially my introduction to Ben Stiller as a kid. I love this movie. Down on his luck, single dad is just searching to find a stable job so that he can, so that he can be around his kid. He's living in New York. He's having a hard time of it. He ends up landing this gig at the Natural History Museum in New York, and he, on his first night there, little does he know that the museum literally comes to life at night because of an ancient tablet. And the people who had previously worked there, it's a whole ploy basically to steal the tablet. He is very, very funny in this movie. This movie has a lot more of the situational comedy that it's not as much. It does have some pretty good quotable lines. He doesn't necessarily have them. Like the main one that I think of a lot is Owen, again, another Owen Wilson movie, but he plays a little miniature named Jed, and he just talks about how he doesn't like being manhandled, and it's very, very funny. But there's a lot of really funny situational comedy here that really shows Ben Stiller's physicality as an actor. Like, obviously, he's witty, he knows how to deliver a line, but I feel like this movie really showcases that physical comedy where he's being clever, he's tying dinosaur bones to little remote controls, he's chasing around the like little monkey thing. There's a whole thing with you got Jed and Octavius, like these little miniatures, and there's a whole like a Gulliver's Travels sort of thing where he's just like the big man. And yeah, he's really, really funny. He ends up like having a therapy session with Attila the Hun where he just talks about like, oh, Attila, you just like to tear people limb from limb because like your dad was not there for you. And Attila the Hun just ends up breaking down and they really bond, and it's really good. And again, I think that as Ben Stiller got older, I actually think that this is similar with Seth Rogen too, where the older these comedians get, the more earnest they get. I think you can see the same thing in Robin Williams too, where like early in their career, they're a little more saccharine, they're a little more cynical, but then as they got older, they just really desired more earnestness in their life.
Yeah,
And this is
yeah.
kind of like a
Robin Williams definitely did not turn cynical.
well, okay, okay, too fair, too fair. But I'm thinking of like Good Will Hunting, sort of
No, you're
Robin
right. You're
Williams,
right.
or
That's a bad joke.
um, but yeah, I thought that was quite good. There's also like other really good elements of this movie, like the Alan Silvestri score is really good, where it's one of those scores that you can hear the first like 5 measures of the song, and you'll be like, I can recognize that immediately as Night at the Museum. So this movie is really good. Robin Williams, speaking of which, is in this movie. He plays a pretty earnest role as Teddy Roosevelt. And this is also one of the I believe this is also one of the last movies that Dick Van Dyke was ever in. He plays the main villain, and he, just seeing that golden age smile is really fantastic. So, Ninth Museum is my number three.
That's awesome. This movie did not make my list, but that's not to say it's not a good family movie. I think it really shows Ben Stiller's range. Like you said, it's cool seeing him a little bit more reserved and playing almost like a more normal character in a more exaggerated situation instead of an exaggerated character in an exaggerated situation. And this movie crushed at the box office and it launched a franchise. So like, I think it's a fantastic family movie. Like it wasn't on my list because I found other movies far funnier. To me, I was placing this sort of in the Walter Mitty column of it has humor, but it's more endearing. Yeah. But I was like 100% this is going to be on Kenny's list, and it's a good movie, and it's still a comedy family, right? It's not family drama. So, yeah, great pick. Okay, that was your number 3, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we only have 2 left. My number 2 is Dodgeball, a true underdog story. So this movie is one of a kind. There are not many films out there that are this good. I know people who haven't watched this film, and I'm like, excuse me? Made $160 million off a $20 million budget, right? That shows you what can be done on a smaller budget if everyone's just committed to the movie, to the idea, to the writing. He plays White Goodman. It's the name of the movie isn't White Goodman. Zoolander is probably his most iconic character, but this has to be a close second. He is for sure so funny. Every scene that he's in, every line that he delivers is absolute gold. Again, a movie I quote nonstop. It drives Lauren nuts. Like the other day, she was walking by and I smashed something out of her hand, and I was just like, "What the hell?" And I just kept walking. And she's like, "I don't know what movie you're quoting. You gotta stop quoting movies around me." And I'm just like, he's the Purple Cobras, the Average Joes, another, of course, Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn. It's so good. You get Jason Bateman in it as an announcer. He crushes it.
Jason Bateman.
Yeah, he's so iconic in this movie. His crew, like the Average Joe's team, is hilarious. Everyone plays their part perfectly well. Yeah. Patches O'Houlihan. Everything
Alan
in this
Tudyk
movie
is great.
Yeah. And Justin Long's in the movie. He's hilarious. It's a tight script with such a niche idea that works so well. It doesn't pull any punches, but it's never like overtly offensive. It's in that realm of The Office where, okay, Ben Stiller, technically, like, he's the villain, but he has, it feels like, just as much on-screen time as Vince Vaughn because he's so magnetic and he does things that are incredibly offensive, but because he's so outlandish, like, everyone is offended by it except for his team of Purple Cobras, who are all freaking hilarious. The costume design of all the dodgeball teams is, like, 10 out of 10. You're like, what world am I living in? Like, this could be made today, and you're like, wait, are people actually playing dodgeball? Like, are they dressing up in these outfits? It just hits on all levels. It's so funny. Just stupid lines that he delivers so well. Like, no one can resist White Goodman when he puts on his shiny shoes. Just like he's and then he's wearing all white leather. And
you interrupted me during my private meditation session.
He's reading the dictionary upside down, right? He's pumping up his crotch at one point. He's got like everything he delivers is so meta and so funny. He's like, oh, that's a picture of me taking the bull by the horns, and it's like an artist like him, and he's like, it's just a metaphor, and she's like, yeah, I got that. He's like, but it really did happen.
But it really happened.
And she's like, wait, what? And so his character is so good, beginning to end, right? He's like, oh, such good quotes to other movies, right? He opens the briefcase to give him, what is it, $100,000. He's like, I don't know if you've ever seen $100,000 except for maybe in the movies. And he's in a movie, obviously. And he goes, but let me explain that something does get lost in translation, right? Then quoting Lost in Translation, the movie, flips open the briefcase and there's like 2 sacks of bills in there. And it's like, he just like nails everything so well. So,
Yeah.
I could go on about Dodgeball forever. It never gets old for me. It's so funny. One of the best comedies ever made. So Dodgeball, number 2.
Sam, once again, we have met at the top, where Dodgeball is also my number 2.
Woo!
Dodgeball is so funny for every reason that you said. Um, there's, I think that it may actually be true that Ben Stiller also, okay, Ben Stiller did not direct this one. It was directed by someone else, but it feels very much in the vein of a Ben Stiller directed movie. I was actually surprised when I found out it wasn't him who wrote and directed it, but he definitely, he at least eats up more screen time than Vince Vaughn does. He is definitely playing, like, Vince Vaughn is playing the straight man to his like to Ben Stiller's wacky character. And yeah, this movie is just infinitely quotable. It's like Napoleon Dynamite level quotable. You know, the classic balmy blazer in this movie. This movie, correct me if I'm wrong, is also the inception of the idea of ESPN the Ocho,
Yes.
which like is now a real thing. It is now a channel that ESPN has because of this really funny, stupid bit that like is in this hilarious Ben Stiller movie. Jason Bateman in this movie is so funny. Like there's even a line where they're gonna have to where the average Joes are gonna have to forfeit because of having a lack of number of players. And he's like, it's an interesting strategy. I wonder how it's gonna work out for them, Tom.
Right.
And
Just so
he's
good.
like, I would love to see Jason Bateman play in like a Tony Romo biopic where he's just an announcer. It just sounds really, really funny. Yeah, the costumes are incredible. The every single character is pretty well fleshed out. There's a lot, I mean, talk about physical humor. There's a ton of physical humor in here. There's his whole, yeah, like crotch balloon thing. And then there's like the guy in the wheelchair, O'Houlihan,
Patches
Patches
O'Houlihan,
O'Houlihan,
yeah.
you know, talking about the 5 D's of
You can
dodgeball, and
dodge a
then
wrench, you can
just
dodge a ball.
yeah, just that scene where they're just like chucking wrenches at each other is just
and
absolutely
and they
wild.
come up with creative ways and funny ways to even do the dodgeball, right? Like you mentioned physical humor. Ben Stiller jumping over like the giant black guy on his team. I mean, like peekaboo and like throwing the ball. And it's like these hilarious things that you're like, how is this unfolding before my eyes? But we buy into it and they make it hilarious. So,
Yeah. Or like the only reason why the average Joes were even able to make it into the tournament is they like de facto lost to this like girls
Girl Scout.
Girl Scout team, but then it turns out during the pre like you know a bunch of 13-year-old girls, apparently one of them failed a drug test for taking
Beaver
like
tranquilizer.
yeah, beaver tranquilizer and anabolic steroids, and then it's just like pans to this girl who's, you know, clearly like a woman, but like has like hair glued to her arm and like a fake mustache, and all of the Girl Scouts just lose their minds. The average Joes move forward by default because they're literally the only other team in the division. It is really really funny, and it does have like a good gotcha there at the end where Ben Stiller, you know, ends up going back into his old ways. The whole time he has this whole like flagellation ritual where he causes pain to himself to make sure he doesn't eat junk food, which is his private meditation session. Very, very funny. But then at the end of the movie, he just goes back to being like 700 pounds, and it's good. It's a good
It's a funny end scene too.
comeuppance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So it's both of our number 2. So that means we're onto our final movie. I mean, it has to be the same movie, right? We're meeting at the top again.
Once again, it's Tropic Thunder.
Yes, 100% Tropic Thunder. Do you want to start with
Yeah.
Tropic Thunder?
Yeah, Tropic Thunder. Easily, in my opinion, his best role, also the movie that I think that he is best directed. This movie is directed by him, and absolutely star-studded cast. I know that we talked a lot about this last week when we were talking about the Jack Black movies, but he is so funny in this movie. And kind of like you were saying last week, where there's certain things that, you know, people aren't quote unquote allowed to do anymore. And this movie is so funny. Specifically, Ben Stiller's Simple Jack thing. I know a lot of people that really rubs them the wrong way, but the whole idea is it's like supposed to. Again, it's supposed to be really, really offensive and really annoying. And there's this whole thing where RDJ is talking to him about how he needs to like tone down, like his role was like too in depth, which is why the Academy didn't like it. But then once he lightened it up to just be like vaguely autistic, then it was like satisfactory.
Oh, then it's
for
suitable.
the Academy.
Right.
Yeah, now it's suitable. It's very, which is the point, right? Because like it's making fun of like the PC nature of the Academy, where it's like, oh my gosh, you can't go like too far because that's like offensive. But if you tone it back, oh my gosh, now it's like incredible because it's very vague and it actually doesn't align with anyone's like, not that it doesn't align with anyone's reality, but it just offends their sensibilities less.
Yeah.
And so the Simple Jack character is really funny, and then how Ben Stiller responds to the acclaim that he's getting from the heroin cartel of like, I perform 3 times a day in front of a sold out crowd. He's like, I don't even know where home is anymore. It's just so funny, and RDJ is trying to like snap him out of it. And then something that Ben Stiller does well in all of his movies is he does like the you thought I thought that you thought that I thought.
Right.
You know, he plays a lot of like grammatical jokes on people, and here he ends up turning RDJ's trying to like snap him out of his method acting thing because he's convinced he's Simple Jack now, and then Ben Stiller turns on RDJ and he's like, who are you? And then like RDJ is obviously just black-faced, very offensive, but very funny. He starts taking out his contacts and like wiping away his face and taking off his wig, and then he's like, I'm nobody, and you can just see that he's just like breaking down Robert Downey Jr.'s character. Incredibly funny. He accidentally kills a panda, and he just does the Rambo like, no. So funny. Honestly, Tom Cruise should have won an Oscar.
Yes, 100%. As Les Grossman.
Oh my gosh, he's just so funny. Like his huge hands, like the huge like prosthetic hands and hairy arms that they put on him. He's just absolutely hilarious. I was surprised that the Matthew McConaughey character was not Owen Wilson. I really thought that role could have fit Owen Wilson just fine, and it would have given them their 8th movie, but yeah, I know we talked a lot about Tropic Thunder last week, but in this case, it is Apex Mountain. It does cap Ben Stiller's career. This is him absolutely in his bag, both directing. He's able to really work with all of these star-studded cast members and to make a really, really funny, really kinetic movie. Again, very clippy. It might be a 90-minute movie. At least it feels like a 90-minute movie. And then, yeah, he definitely shines in front of the camera as well. So Tropic Thunder's number 1.
Yeah, definitely number 1 for me. One of my favorite comedic actors, Bill Hader's in the movie. Small role, crushes it, right? Anytime you get this many actors in a movie and they all embrace their roles, like your boy Kenny Powers is in this movie. What's that actor's name? Shoot. I can't remember. Who's the guy who plays Kenny Powers?
Dude, I can't remember. Hold on.
He's one of my favorite actors. Danny McBride. Okay, I always forget his name.
Yeah.
Danny McBride's hilarious in the movie. It's just anytime everyone can come together and be these small roles in a big movie and just know their parts and play them so well. And that's what this movie does, right? The movie has an incredible intro, right? It uses like 5 trailers from 5 different movies, which shows where all the actors in the movie come from, right? One's like a rapper, like a black rapper, and he's just trying to make it into the film industry. You have RDJ playing like a, gay Catholic priest and and he's earning Oscars for it, right? Because that's what wins at the Oscars is like, can you like tear down religion and can you make social commentaries? Like, okay, here's your Oscar. And so you have that. And then you have Ben Stiller he has like 5 trailers, right? It just keeps showing because he's just making sequels over.
Scorcher 7.
Yeah, Scorcher 7 over and over. Here we go again. again. And it's like it's the movie's so self-aware and it's so funny. I think Ben Stiller and RDJ have some of the best chemistry like in a comedy movie I've ever seen in this film, right? Where like RDJ is full blackface, like trying to be an auteur actor, and he's playing a role with Ben Stiller, and they're like going head to head because Ben Stiller's such a bad actor, and but they're vying for who's the star of this like war movie, and there's a million references in this movie to other movies and to a bunch of war movies, like you mentioned, Rambo, Platoon. There, it just goes on and on. They nail the references so well.
Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now.
It's like it's basically an Apocalypse Now remake,
right? And so there's just so. It's so good. I knew it was funny, not when I saw it, because when I was a teenager, I saw it for the first time. My dad made me turn it off after 20 minutes because he said it wasn't funny and it was offensive. That's how I knew the movie was hilarious. My dad is like the least funny person I've ever met. So I was like, this has to be funny. I don't understand it yet. But a few years down the line, I watched it and it was the funniest movie ever. It still holds up 100%. Ben Stiller's been attacked for this movie by Hollywood and has been asked to like apologize for the film. You know, the last 10 years been, like I mentioned, Seth Rogen, you know, he bent the knee and was like, yes, I apologize for my roles. Ben Stiller has adamantly said, not apologizing for the movie. It was timely. It was tasteful. It was well done. It makes fun of itself, right? It's the same people who say, oh, The Office is offensive. Like Comedy Central, for instance, I remember a few years back, they pulled down episodes of The Office from Comedy Central. They said they were too offensive. It's like, are you guys idiots? One, you're Comedy Central. Like, take a look in the mirror. Stop being so PC. Two, The Office knows it's being offensive, but it's doing it through the lens of an ignorant character. And that's what makes it funny, right? We're not all watching The Office like supporting the things Michael Scott, like the things that are coming out of his mouth, right? We're like, oh, how can he say this? It's so wrong. And so just saying something doesn't mean that we're agreeing with that thing, right?
Right.
And anyways, RDJ crushed it. Little fun background. I used to watch the bonus features on this. He stayed in character off screen and would play that character off screen, and people said it was the funniest thing ever. I've like seen clips of it, and he's just locked in, and so funny too, right? Because in the movie there's a line where he's like, I don't break character until I'm doing the DVD commentary, and it's like he actually did not break character the entire time. And so how cool is that? Directed by Ben Stiller, and it is just an incredible movie. It's so funny. If you're offended by it, the movie's doing its job. If you're laughing, the movie's doing its job, and it hits home. So just unbelievable and so quotable. And I guess that wraps up our list. So I had Heavyweights at 5, Meet the Parents at 4, Zoolander at 3, Dodgeball at 2, Tropic Thunder at 1. And Kenny, what were yours?
I had Meet the Parents at 5, Zoolander at 4, Night at the Museum at 3, Dodgeball at 2, and Tropic Thunder at 1.
Okay, awesome. He has some other amazing movies.
Yes.
Royal
Honorable
Tenenbaums.
mentions. Let's do some honorable
Yeah,
mentions.
honorable mentions. Royal Tenenbaums. It's tough because it's kind of a Wes Anderson dramedy. It's tough to say like, oh, this is your funniest role. Love Ben Stiller in that movie. It's one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies. He's one of my favorite directors. Like, I love him in his tracksuit and his kids. And
yeah, the kids in the matching tracksuits.
Yeah, he's funny. He's great. He belongs in more Wes Anderson movies. Justice for Ben Stiller in Wes Anderson movies. Another one I can think of, I don't know. Have you seen There's Something About Mary? It strikes me as a movie you may have not watched.
I've not seen it.
Okay, I am spot on with my Kenny Dar here. There's Something About Mary, like smashed at the box office. It had Cameron Diaz, and it is a really weird movie. It didn't crack my top 5. It has its moments, but it's really zany. It's really out there. That's another famous one. Any others that I'm missing off the top of my head?
Yeah, I also had Royal Tenenbaums on mine. I watched it for the first time this week. Really, really, yeah, good movie. It's not my favorite Wes Anderson film, but it is quite good. But it was hard to put that on the list just because in like every Wes Anderson movie, it's such an ensemble situation to where it's not like it's like a standout performance necessarily. That was the main one that I had. I also had on here.
I give a shout out to
Tower Heist.
Oh,
Tower Heist.
I hated Tower
You don't like
Heist.
Tower
I
Heist?
thought
I think
Tower.
he's pretty funny in Tower
I just
Heist.
didn't find Tower Heist funny, and I really wanted
Yeah,
to, and I just didn't think it came through. I didn't think
yeah,
the heist came through well. I didn't find it funny as much. Like I wanted to love that movie. I'd watched it multiple times. It just didn't hit for me.
yeah. Madagascar.
Yeah, Madagascar, sure, animated. Along Came Polly. I actually enjoy as a rom com. I think it's good. I don't think it's like top tier, but I think he has good chemistry with Jennifer Aniston. Philip Seymour Hoffman kind of steals the show. He's hilarious in that. Another movie that crushed, right? $170 million off a $42 million budget. Like the dude can crush films if he wants to.
Yeah.
So episode went almost an hour and 20 minutes. Maybe we're going to go a little bit longer. Who knows? All I'm going to say is this, you guys, like, make sure you sub. We are trying to grow. So if you made it this far in the episode, if you have friends, family that might enjoy this type of podcast, everyone's always looking for something, help out the pod and share this around even to 2 or 3 people. And you can become, a producer of the show. We'll put your name on the bottom. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? And next week, important because people have asked, what are you talking about next week? We are doing Ryan Coogler movies. Ryan Coogler. And so he is coming out with a movie called Sinners. Kenny is going to go see that opening night.
Yep. Gonna try.
The reviews look amazing. Michael B. Jordan. Kind of a black vampire movie is what I'm hearing.
Yeah. It's
a black pyre. Black. I don't know. That's a bad immersion of words. Go ahead. Talk about the movie.
Put that on a short. I like that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's I think it's supposed to be really, really good. Like the embargo lifted and it's coming out to stellar reviews. That's good. And Ryan Coogler has done a lot of great things. Think Black Panther.
He's only in 5 movies.
Creed. Yeah.
Okay. So Black Panther, if you haven't seen Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I have not seen. I need to go watch Wakanda Forever. Fruitvale Station, I have watched. I have some thoughts on that movie.
I haven't seen that one
Oh,
yet.
I bet you can't wait for me to talk about that movie. And Creed, which if you haven't seen Creed, obviously it's a follow-up to the Rocky series years later.
Did he not direct Judah and the Black Messiah?
Very presumptuous of you, Kenny.
Sorry, I'm just looking. No, never mind. That's Shaka King. We're good.
Yeah, I think he only has the 5 films, but that's good. It'll be a tight 5. We'll go in depth on them. And that means it's really easy for you guys if you haven't watched these movies. I can say, even though I have so many thoughts and problems with Fruitvale Station, that it's a good movie. And so that is worth watching. I really liked Black Panther. I'm not just saying that to appeal to people because... whatever.
It's so unlike you.
Right.
To like something that minorities are in, Sam.
Right.
That's not what you're about.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm saying.
White everything is what you're about.
Right. Exactly. And so, yeah, actually, when I found out Black Panther was actually black under the suit, I lost all interest in the movie. I couldn't believe what was happening. I thought we had a Venom situation going on. That was not the case.
You were really hoping Topher Grace was gonna pop his head out of the Black Panther.
When it was not Topher Grace, I was just like, let Michael B. Jordan win. Who cares? Let's not spoil those movies too much. They're all great movies. So, anyways, that is it. So until next time, loyal and intimate fan base, this is Sam and Kenny signing off.
Call me Blazer.